Venezuela. The last 2 years have been devastating. A global pandemic threatening an already dire situation. With medicine, water, power, and fuel shortages, the virus was not the only thing Venezuelans feared. It's what came as a result: hunger.
Yo por lo menos yo tengo 5 muchachos. Y eso no me alcanza ni para nada.
Every day, Jefferson Gallegos and his wife ask themselves how they will feed their family. When there's work, there's food. But when there isn't, mom and dad sacrifice the little they have.
Cuando no teníamos trabajo ni uno de los dos, llegó el momento que en ese momento ya mi hija ya había nacido y nosotros dejábamos de comer para comprarle la leche a la niña.
With COVID-19 and variants still posing a threat around the world, Gallegos and his family know this trip to the market is a blessing they're not taking for granted.
Julie Nyman and her husband, Afsah Hussein, life is different now. What has been the biggest change in this neighborhood over the past few months?
I say, like, people love each other more, you know.
At the height of the pandemic, the coffee shop they owned in Queens, New York shut down. It seemed everyone here either had COVID or knew someone who did.
The first month or so, all we heard was the sirens. And we were all alone in our apartments, and all you heard was the sirens.
Across the city, that sound was haunting. COVID disproportionately ravaged this region, densely populated, lower income, communities of color.
This tragedy was a tragedy that did not have to be.
Now, a dramatic turnaround. Vaccinations in Elmhurst have surged. 79% of residents now have at least 1 dose. Other areas are also catching up. At this plaza, street vendors are back after an agonizing year.
It seemed very apocalyptic. It seemed almost like a movie.
Abigail Aviles is a community organizer who founded a local food pantry.
This community is definitely resilient.
That resilience on display at Julie and Also's coffee shop. Did you ever expect you'd have to shut down your business for months?
It's like a shock, actually. I don't know. It's like you wake up and like dreams, like it's a bad dream, you know.
And now you hope to wake up from it.
We try to wake up stronger.
Hi, my name is Lynn Pham. I'm an electrical, mechanical, thermal flight technician at JPL NASA.
So what we do is we provide installation for the spacecraft.
I was from Vietnam, and in 1975, the communists took over the whole country. So my mom said, I'm not sure about your education, so you need to have some skill. So why don't you go learn how to sew? And then when we escaped from Vietnam, because of the language barrier, the only job I can find was sewing.
I have this rare bone disease that, you know, like when you have a problem, you just think it's gonna like go away if you just like keep ignoring it. The leg thing, it's just like random stabs of pain here and there. So they don't know how to treat it. Basically, as of now, there aren't any treatment plans. Like, there's no medication like specific to this disease to help with this. The first medication that I was given for it was gabapentin, which is like an opioid adjacent. He has me on 5 or 6 different prescriptions. When I first started with him, it was just 2. I went from just being on Cymbalta and Klonopin to being on Cymbalta, Klonopin, gabapentin, and Adderall. And the doses, too, have gone up. You're taking so much stuff at one point, you lump it all together. Pain, it's chronic pain that I'm in that has kind of, I think, led to most of my, like, drug use. And he'll be like, well, like, are you going out with friends? And I'll be like, yeah, I've been seeing my friends more. And he'll be like, are you drinking more? Are you using drugs more? And I'll be like, yeah, I'm drinking. And he'll be like, are you using drugs? And I'll be like, kind of. And he'll be like, just a little bit of Coke, right? And I'll be like, yeah, just a little bit of Coke. And he'll be like, okay, that's fine.
Good morning, Good morning, great man. I've been the principal here at Warner for 1 year. This is my first year. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink anything with caffeine. So when I see my students, that gives me my boost, my coffee, my confidence. Just coming up as in the school district as an inner city kid, they counted us out. I felt like we didn't get enough supports from the school districts to give us what we need to be successful. I started cutting hair maybe about 15 years ago when I noticed that some kids wanted their haircuts. So when I started cutting their hair, I said, I said, hey, let's put a barbershop together. So I reached out to my superintendent. He thought it would be a good idea. And we just took it and ran with it. And I used that time to build relationships with my students. What you want done today, big girl? Basic. We talk about academics, we talk about behaviors, we talk about things that's going on in the community. And it allows me to not be their principal, Dr. Newton, but to be their mentor, Newton. So let me ask you another question. How do you guys feel about all the crime and stuff that's going on in our neighborhoods?
Too much innocent people dying. Yeah, too much innocent people dying. What
we're dealing with here in the city of Wilmington, a lot of murders. I lost my brother to senseless violence, gun violence. His name was Sean Hammond. We called him MJ because he thought he was Michael Jordan. He loves basketball. That phone call that I received that my brother was murdered was probably one of the worst phone calls that I could ever receive. And if we don't get a grip on our kids now, we're going to lose them to violence. We're going to lose them to the graveyards. We're going to lose them to the incarceration. And we don't want that. When you guys are successful, my life is successful. That's the purpose of it.
Because you're tough on us, it's like you're motivating us to do better. I want to be a principal when I grow up.
When I see them, I see me. Coming from the same background that we came from and being counted out. So my goal is to change the world.
Leap and do the limbo, all on wooden stilts that can be up to 13 feet tall. They are Moco Jumbies, stilt dancers that are a staple at celebrations across the Caribbean. And they're here because of Jason Edwards, an immigrant from Trinidad and Tobago who has gotten an entire generation in Brooklyn balancing and bopping on stilts. One man's love of stilts, allowing a new generation to walk tall.
So I am Colombian, born and raised in a little city of Bucaramanga, Colombia. Especially when covering Latino issues and Hispanic issues, I go in there with more kindness and more humanity because I see myself in the people that I cover. Usted entiende más. Usted se puede relacionar más con esa gente. I moved to the U.S. in August 31st, 2006. I was 11 years old. We lived in Jersey, and to warm ourselves up, we would come to the city and just kind of go to the touristy spots. And 30 Rock was one of those spots. We walked right in front of Rockefeller Center, and we took a picture. It's a terrible picture. There was people behind us. It's not well framed. But it was one of the first times where we kind of saw the magic of the United States. So we took that picture 15 years ago, right over there. And then now today, September 2021, I'm an associate producer at the same building that we stood in front of. There's nothing more important than your cultural identity and your language and where you come from. Va a ser parte de usted de aquí hasta que no estamos en este mundo.
But I want to ask you just, what do you want people here at the company, people in general who are watching to know about you and your culture?
This is the new face of America. Yeah. This is the new face of the country that we live in, of politics, of media. And whenever you see the cleaners, whenever you go to a bank or you see those people, they could be me, sitting here with you. So it's all about empathy. It's all about humanity. And it's remembering that there are many degrees of separation between the cleaners and the people sitting at the studio.